Text, Indeed Jobcast. National Nurses Week, Get Hired in Healthcare.
Hello, everyone, and welcome. Thank you for joining us today for Indeed's Jobcast. I'm Leora Yardenai. I'm a career coach and a manager at Indeed, and my work involves helping job seekers find opportunities that help them thrive. I'll be moderating today's Jobcast. Now, before we begin, I'll be covering a few housekeeping items. First, you are in listen-only mode, which means you can hear us, we can't hear you. Second, we're recording, so you can view this webinar later on demand on YouTube. You can see the site right up there on the slide.
youtube.com/Indeed.
And lastly, please ask questions on the Indeed community discussion using the link right here on the slide, and our team of career coaches will be answering.
Go.indeed.com/Get Hired in Healthcare.
So let's go ahead and kick it off. Today, we wanted to go ahead and say hello and thank you to all of our nurses out there. We know that this is National Nurses Week. We also wanted to make sure that we thank all healthcare professionals, past, present, and future, for being on the front lines right now and for doing work to save lives, risking yourselves and keeping everyone safe. As Dr. Renee Thompson says, you are human by birth, hero by choice.
Text, Thank you Healthcare Heroes.
Now, here's the agenda for today. We've got 3 topics that we're going to cover. First, we'll be discussing healthcare industry insights. Next, we'll go ahead and we'll be discussing impacts of COVID-19 on healthcare roles. And lastly, we'll be sharing tips for getting hired in healthcare.
Today's panelists.
That said, I'd like to introduce a couple people. First, we've got a great photo of me. As you can see, I've already introduced myself. Second, we've got Christina Broussard, who is a recruitment evangelist with Indeed. She spent her career working with recruitment teams across multiple industries to optimize their strategies and performance in online talent attraction, candidate experience, and recruitment technology. As a member of Indeed's Employer Insights team, Christina pairs platform data with industry trend analysis to share Indeed's story and bring the value and impact of the company's programs and solutions to life. And lastly, we have Keith Carlson. He's a board-certified nurse coach, as well as an RN with a BSN, a Bachelor's of Science in Nursing. He's a well-known entrepreneur, podcaster, freelance writer, and motivational speaker.
NurseKeith.com.
Welcome, Christina, and welcome, Keith. And without further ado, I will hand over the chat to Christina. Go for it.
Thanks so much, Leora. And I would certainly like to add my thanks to all who choose to be heroes and to stand on the front lines every day, and certainly in today's time of COVID-19. So as you probably know, healthcare workers have been in incredibly high demand for some time now. And to be clear, job postings across industries right now are down compared to last year, with the global economy slowing due to the pandemic. But healthcare postings are falling less, with medical workers on, of course, the front lines of the response to the coronavirus. And as of late April, no job sector is seeing growth in new postings relative to last year. However, new postings in nursing have seen declines far less steep than the national average decline of 45.5%.
A bar chart shows healthcare as dominating job postings at 13.3%, followed by transportation, food, retail, and tech.
Healthcare is the biggest segment that we see on Indeed, and it's now the largest U.S. employer. And as the U.S. population ages and demand for healthcare services rise, the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics, or the BLS, projects that the sector is going to add more jobs between 2016 and 2026 than any other occupational group.
A bar graph compares the 2019 and 2020 percentage of new job postings by sector. 8.1 to 10.3 for management, 6.6 to 11.2 for nursing, 1.3 to 2.1 for personal care and home health, 0.5 to 0.7 for pharmacy, and 2.5 to 3.4 for software development.
So if we take a look at some Indeed data, in April 2019, we saw nursing make up 6.6% of new jobs. Whereas this April, it makes up 11.2%. So a year-over-year increase of nearly 70%, 69.7% to be precise. And that's the highest increase seen in any job sector. Healthcare-related job sectors such as personal care and home health, which is also going to include jobs like home care aide and pharmacy, also gained. Now, because it's National Nursing Week, it's crucial that we note the vast importance of all of these particular roles. And nursing is the largest occupational group in the health sector. It accounts for about 59% of the health professions. Now, although there are over 4.8 million registered nurses in the United States, due to a combination of factors, including an aging population, baby boomers retiring from the nursing field, and greater access to healthcare, the BLS projects employment for registered nurses to increase by 15% between that decade, 2016 to 2026. But by 2022, there will be more unfilled RN jobs than in any other profession. And an additional 1.1 million RNs will be needed to avoid a shortage, with some states hit harder than others. So, of course, COVID-19 has only amplified the need for healthcare workers and impacted how these roles function. So I'm going to pass it over to Nurse Keith to discuss some of those impacts.
Thank you, Christina. It's great to be here. Happy Nurses Week to all the nurses out there, and happy Year of the Nurse and Midwife to everyone, as it was declared by the WHO in recognition of the 200th anniversary of the birth of Florence Nightingale. So we obviously can't talk about the impact of this novel coronavirus, COVID-19, without mentioning the challenge of safety. Safety is on everybody's minds, of course, privately and, well, in the workplace as well. And so for those of you working in healthcare, this isn't news to you, but we can't neglect the subject.
Text, staying safe on the front lines.
So in regards to worker safety specifically, we need to talk about a hot topic, and that hot topic is PPE, personal protective equipment. Now, if you are interviewing for jobs, seeking jobs, or are potentially being hired, it's hard to know if there's an adequate supply of PPE at the facility that you're considering or that is actually offering you a position. So you can ask salient, cogent questions, and you're going to need to use your critical thinking, your intuition to ascertain if you think the answers you're receiving are both truthful and accurate. And you can also do a little bit of research online to see if anyone is saying anything about the particular employer or that particular facility. And you also want to assess how close are they to surge capacity when it comes to COVID-19 in that particular region or city or municipality. So keep your eyes on that. That is a very important thing. And you just have to trust gut and ask as many questions as you can. Now, policies on PPE and other safety measures are in flux everywhere at the national level, at the facility level, and even at the state level, and even in specific units. So everything is different everywhere you look and everywhere you go. So again, ask salient questions and use your critical thinking. Now, staying safe on the front lines also means that a lot of things have been postponed. Elective surgeries like hip replacements, knee replacements, injections for pain, all sorts of things like that have been postponed. This means for workers that in some cases, nurses might get shifted from one specialty to another because they're not needed in the ambulatory surgical center, or it might mean that you may be furloughed, and some nurses have indeed been furloughed in certain areas. Also, in areas where we have small community hospitals who are seeing lower censuses and not a great deal of COVID-19, furloughs are happening in that sector as well. However, we can also note that some ambulatory services are coming back online. And while emergency has been the order of the day, the urgent need to treat people and to prepare and deal with surge capacity, some nursing positions, I believe, are going to be coming back online as certain ambulatory and elective procedures are allowed again. So watch very closely what's happening in your area, or if you're looking further afield in other states or other cities, watch what those mayors or departments of health or even state regulators and legislators are saying. Now, in the age of COVID-19, and this virus is not going away anytime soon, unfortunately, stress, burnout, self-care, and I'll add compassion fatigue are very important things to think about and to deal with actively, because you can be at your best when you're taking best care of yourself.
Stress, burnout, and self-care.
So first, we need to look at physical health. We start with the physical. You need adequate sleep and rest. This means making sure you have good sleep hygiene and you're getting to sleep on time, sleeping throughout the night or day. If you're a night shift worker, get those blackout curtains, make sure that you're getting your sleep. Now, nutrition and hydration are important at work and also at home. Stay hydrated, stay well fed. I know there's a lot of stress baking going out there and all sorts of stuff during COVID-19, but make sure you focus on your fruits and vegetables, your fiber, hydrating, good proteins, carbohydrates, and stay well fed. Now, supplements are important. Many of you might take supplements, some of you don't. Some are being highly recommended during COVID, so keep your eyes on that. And don't forget your prescribed medications. Just because we're in an emergency doesn't mean you're going to forget your ACE inhibitor or your calcium channel blocker or your antidepressant or your medication for GERD or any kind of condition you might have. Take your medications as prescribed. You have to take care of yourself. Now, exercise comes in many, many, many forms. Your exercise isn't necessarily going to look like someone else's. Some people might play tennis, but the tennis courts are closed. Some people might just do push-ups and sit-ups at home. Find the exercise that works for you and have a plan and follow through on it. Get an accountability buddy if you need one so that you stay focused and take care of yourself. And finally, take care of your medical needs. You might have some fears about getting out there and doing what you need to do, but if you need your labs drawn for the quarter, go get your labs drawn at a laboratory you trust where they have good practices. See the dentist if you have an emergency. Don't put it off. See the chiropractor or physical therapist if you have something going on, and see your medical provider in person or through telehealth to take care of your ongoing needs. We cannot neglect ourselves even in times of emergency. Now, for the mental and physical, for the mental and emotional, the physical also helps us. If we're getting exercise, if we're getting that dopamine going and we're getting rid of the cortisol and stress hormones, that is going to help our emotional and mental state. We also have to recognize that many of us are experiencing secondary trauma, whether we're on the front lines or not. We might have sick family members. We might just be watching the news and experiencing secondary trauma or survivor's guilt or imposter syndrome. So we need to process and do our best to heal and pay attention to our secondary trauma. There isn't any shame in seeing a therapist or a psychologist or a counselor if you need that type of help. So find telehealth through your employee assistance program, also known as an EAP, or perhaps actually through your health insurance. Find the help that you need. You can also turn to your loved ones, trusted colleagues, mentors, friends, your favorite faith leader, people you really trust. Turn to the people you trust. Don't hold it inside. Now, on the spiritual level, we have certain forms of exercise that have a spiritual connotation and many people get spiritual benefit from them. Yoga, Tai Chi, Qigong. There's also meditation. And again, your faith leaders, your online church or or synagogue services, your online mosque services. Some people turn to poetry, some people turn to nature for their spiritual support, inspirational books, films, and videos. Find the things that work for you and nurture your spiritual self. Now, in terms of relationships, of course, isolation, quarantine, and lockdown do not necessarily bode well for face-to-face relationships unless there's people you're actually living with or seeing on a regular basis. Use the tools at your disposal. Telephone, Zoom, Skype, FaceTime, use social media, use Marco Polo, all these different apps that allow you to connect in different ways. This will help you feel better, and it will also feed into the mental, the emotional, and the spiritual if you feel connected, cared for, and you're caring for others. And really, seriously, write old-fashioned letters and send cards in the mail. Yes, some people might say they're vectors for the virus, but sending a little letter and someone opening it and reading it, or a card telling them you love them and thinking of them, can do a lot for your heart and theirs. So reach out. And that old adage of if you want to be if you want a friend, be a friend applies right now. So stay connected. Now, switching gears a little bit, much of the fear around the spread of the coronavirus is that our health system has been, or is, or will continue to be overwhelmed. And yes, that has happened in certain places like New York City, Seattle, New Orleans, and it's happening in other places now as we reach surge capacity. And then some of those areas taper off and other hotspots arise around the country. And there are hotspots arising as we speak today.
Meeting the demand for care.
So the workforce can be spread thin in certain areas, and we just have to pay attention and see how we can help out. So to meet the increased demand for care, some states are implementing regulatory changes.
Loosening nursing student requirements.
So right now, there are ongoing conversations going about how to get nursing students and other healthcare related students out of school, graduated, taking their licensing exams, and entering the workforce. This is a hot topic, and it's a difficult thing being navigated right now. We would love to see nursing students who've completed their first year getting out there and working as CNAs to fulfill some of their hourly requirements for graduation, but this is being scuttled at the moment by all of the regulatory agencies that have hands in that particular pot. So nursing students may want to get out there, or they may have fears of getting out there, and we are still watching to see what will be happening. Stay tuned for that, and if you are a nursing student, pay attention and see if you can glean any information about what is available to you and how you can get out of school, graduate, licensed, and enter the workforce. Now, in terms of recognizing out-of-state licenses, nurses will know that there is a nurse licensure compact that includes more than half the states in the US, and those nurses can work in other states very easily in terms of license reciprocity. Now, many states have indeed passed legislation during the COVID-19 pandemic where out-of-state nurses can go to other states and work without that process, that red tape and bureaucracy to get that reciprocity and be able to work in another state. One example would be the Four Corners area of the United States, which is where Arizona, New Mexico, Utah, and Colorado meet. The Navajo Nation, the Native American reservations there, are being hit very hard, and some of the Native American pueblos and reservations in northern New Mexico in that surrounding area are also getting hit. So there are well-paying jobs in those areas for nurses with licenses from any state in the US. So good pay and opportunities are in the offing. Yes, there's some risk involved in working where COVID-19 is surging, but if you have good PPE and good policies, you can do it, and you can get out there and make a difference if you would like to and feel safe doing so. Now, other modifications are happening state to state, so each state can make its own decision about what's going on with their nursing and healthcare workforce. In Florida, they passed legislation in response to COVID that allows qualified nurse practitioners to independently operate without an attending doctor. Now, in a number of states of the US, including here in New Mexico, where I live, nurse practitioners have complete autonomy without an attending or supervising or mentoring doctor. In other states, that's not the case, but things are being loosened for the moment, and perhaps that will push some states over the edge for the long term. So we have to watch that closely. In South Carolina, the medical board can now expedite temporary out-of-state licenses for physicians, physician assistants, and respiratory therapists. And in Colorado and New York, we've got former healthcare practitioners who may no longer be working in the field, but have an active license and might be able to come out there and volunteer their skills at this really, really critical time in the United States and world history. Now, we're also seeing some exceptions for inactive licensees and also retired licensees, like retired nurses, who could temporarily come out and help during the pandemic. Now, the first thing I hear from people regarding that is that there are risks because a lot of those nurses, for instance, are older. They might have COPD or other comorbidities. So I would like to see personally, I would like to see them involved in telehealth and other types of triage and non-patient contact positions that won't put them at risk of COVID-19 if they have those comorbidities. So there may be opportunities where you live, if you're retired or know someone retired, who can get out there and work and help and contribute.
Healthcare roles trending now.
So the pandemic is also leading to some pretty interesting new trends in the job market. There are lack of options for healthcare treatment in certain rural areas, and certain employers are thinking about non-traditional models like telehealth. Telehealth is difficult in very rural areas because a lot of those patients don't have smartphones, don't have good connections, so video isn't necessarily possible. So a lot of simply telephone calls are being done, which is somewhat of a challenge with certain physical conditions, of course. So this is exciting. Telemedicine has been growing for some time. COVID-19 is giving this great opportunity to be able to look at telehealth and telemedicine in a new light for the long term. So we need to pay attention because there may be new opportunities coming along here. And the CARES Act, passed by Congress and the Senate, provides funding and loosens restrictions for telehealth. And a new term is arising that I've been seeing out there on the interwebs these days, and it's called webside manner. You've heard of bedside manner. Well, we need to think about how we comport ourselves and how we interact with patients when we're using video and telephone. So that is an interesting manifestation and something that I don't believe will be going away anytime soon and will likely be growing. So in terms of the demand for nurses specifically, one of the biggest levers being pulled in terms of the response to the surge of COVID-19 around the US is the demand for travel nurses. Now, these are nurses who are usually assigned to different areas temporarily to fill short-term vacancies. Those contracts are generally 13 weeks in length, though we're seeing, because of demand shifting around the country, some of those contracts are actually shorter, and they actually can pay quite well, including housing and travel allowances. So if you have interest in travel, and some PTs and OTs and others also travel, so that could be a great opportunity for those of you who'd like to contribute and possibly go to a different area of the country where you're needed most. So respiratory therapists are obviously in a great demand right now because of the COVID-19 outbreak and the massive respiratory symptoms that can be experienced by patients. We are seeing acute respiratory distress syndrome. We're seeing fibrotic lungs. So when that lung tissue seizes up, we need a respiratory therapist in there. Nurses can assist with respiratory therapy interventions, but we need the RTs on site because they're the experts. They're the ones who can really do it. So the need and the postings for those jobs and the searches for RT jobs are surging since mid-March compared to the beginning of the year. And the share of searches for the word respiratory by employers has grown by over 550% as of April 6th. So a big shout out to respiratory therapists. You are so needed, and we are so grateful for your service.
Opportunities arise from labor shortages.
Now, there are other, of course, negative impacts of the shortages, like some hospitals being understaffed, nurses and other staff being furloughed, censuses being low in certain areas, and some hospitals honestly struggling financially and some actually looking at bankruptcy. However, this means there are also benefits on the other side of the equation for new and current nurses and many other healthcare workers and other healthcare workers. Like, there are more available jobs in certain markets. There are competitive salary and benefits being offered out there. There are greater opportunities for career advancement, especially if you are demonstrating leadership, grace under pressure, and there's increased access to financial aid in certain quarters. So that is also something we can watch and take advantage of.
So how do you get hired in healthcare? What employers are looking for?
So if we're going to increase our chances of getting hired in healthcare, there are certain things that we can do. None are a silver bullet, but we need to do all of these things to make sure we are the best candidate out there and we get noticed. So starting with your resume is a great way to get a broad overview of where you are in terms of your skills, qualifications, and what you bring to the table. If you haven't updated your resume for several months, get it out, dust it off, start working on it. I always recommend that we update our resumes every time we turn the clocks forward or ahead for daylight savings time, sorry, Arizona, or if you're changing the batteries in your carbon monoxide or your smoke alarms. Do it at least twice a year. And if you think you're going to get out there right now, get your resume updated now, as well as your basic skeleton cover letter, so it's ready to roll when you need to apply for a position. Now, now, educational degrees are very important. We are looking at all sorts of things that people can do to make themselves more attractive to potential employers. If you have an RN, you might want to consider getting your BSN, so that that bridge program will allow you to get that bachelor's, which will make you more attractive for acute care positions, because of magnet status in the Institute of Medicine study that came out about a decade ago, we definitely need nurses with bachelor's degrees. So educational degrees are definitely one way to go. Also, think about certifications. You don't want to necessarily get a certification because you think you should, but if a certification, perhaps in critical care or pediatrics, will get you where you need to go and make you stand out from the crowd and be a candidate that a potential employer is going to say, wow, that person is going to give me incredible value in return on my investment. That's what you want to demonstrate to an employer. That's licenses and certifications. Now, if you have experience working with patients or providing care in any particular realm, you want to make sure you make that extremely clear so that the employer knows where you're coming from and, again, what you bring to the table. That previous experience can be leveraged in the interest of your next potential position. Okay, so we need to then look at hard skills and soft skills relevant to the position for which you're applying. Hard skills. Let's start with computer skills. If you're coming into nursing or healthcare from another area, like maybe accounting or business or finances, for instance, you might have great skill with novel computers and software that are put in front of you. Make it clear that you have facility with computers and digital technologies. That is so important in healthcare right now. And if you're already a healthcare provider and you are, let's say, an Epic super user. Make sure they know what EMRs you've worked with. And if you can teach other people how to master or even become competent with Epic, that is an amazing thing to offer to an employer. If they know they're not going to have to hold your hand to learn and navigate a new EMR, you are worth your weight in gold. Now, when it comes to soft skills, coming from any other career prior to healthcare, you probably have great skills in negotiation, multidisciplinary collaboration, emotional intelligence, relational intelligence. Leverage those soft skills in terms of breaking in to the healthcare workforce. If you're already in the workforce, make sure that you can bring those skills forward and say, hey, I am a great communicator. I am emotionally intelligent. Talk about what you've accomplished as a leader, why you are such a great communicator and a team player, and that will stand you in very good stead with the potential employer. So you want to match your resume to the job you want. If you're applying, let's say, to a med-surg job, or a GYN position, let's say in a birthing center, there are different skills that come to bear. So you want to make sure that you are making your resume count for the types of positions for which you're applying.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Nurse Keith. That was super insightful. And where we'll take it from here is really, how do we get a lot of those things that Nurse Keith just talked about, some of those certifications, licenses, and other skills, both hard and soft, into our resume so that employers can find us. As Leora mentioned in the beginning, that's what I do at Indeed, is work with our employers to find great talent within places like our Indeed resume database, as well as through applications that they're receiving from their job postings on Indeed. And keywords is a big topic of conversation that we always have with the employers who are looking for talent like yourself. So let's talk through a couple of different ways that you can do that.
Resume keywords.
So you want to be sure that the keywords that you're using as a job seeker in your Indeed resume are up to snuff, that they have all of the information, all of the certifications, all the education even that you've received listed clearly on your Indeed resume. Now, it's really important for, first, the employer to be able to find you. And when they are searching for candidates within the Indeed resume database, just like how you start a job search with a keyword, similarly, employers are starting their search for resumes with a keyword. And so we want to be sure that those keywords that are relevant to our background, to our experience, and to what position we aim to get are reflected within our resume. So whether those are those hard skills, so what programs do I know, what certifications do I have, what technologies I know, they need to be baked into the descriptions of each of your roles, especially in roles where that has been something that has stood out for you. Additionally, within the skills section of your Indeed resume, that's another place where you can really call out those skills that you have, and is even a specific area that employers can search to find individuals that have that specific skill set listed. So think about some of those in-demand nursing skills that you might have, like telemetry, like ACLS, CPR. Even hospital experience is really relevant. And then also other ways that you can look for that inspiration. Sometimes we hit that mental roadblock. We can't think of everything that we know how to do. We just do it so naturally sometimes. Even look to employer job postings for that inspiration. So when you're looking at a job posting for a really exciting opportunity, what are the words that they're using? What are the skills that they're looking for? Are they things that I have, and are they reflected in my resume? Nurse Keith also touched on those really important soft skills. It's not just about that medical knowledge that you bring to the table, but how patient-centered are you? The collaboration that you have among different teams and units at the hospital or your place of work today. How can you really pull that out and show the employer that you're a wow candidate? Right? You're standing out among the rest. As I was mentioning, employers really do take that key word, and that's how they start. So they want to make sure that the pool of candidates they're looking for has the skills that they need for this particular role. But as they're reading through your resume, other things that are going to stand out is really showing them a little bit about who you are, how you approach healthcare, what you're passionate about, and which specialties and sectors of healthcare you've been really passionate about during your career. So when we're thinking about that top section of your resume that might have your maybe mission statement, your purpose, your objective, or just a little bit about who I am that's not really reflected in my specific experience, those soft skills is a great place for you. That's a really great place for you to show off some of those soft skills for that employer to get to know you a little bit better and ultimately pull the trigger in actually reaching out to you about these opportunities. Of course, we want to make sure that we're showing off all of our hard-earned education, degrees, certification, things that we have spent a lot of time and energy on. We want to make sure that those are listed in our resume as well, because that's certainly really important to these employers as well. We could also think about that one-off coursework that we may have taken as well if you feel like it is really relevant and specific in the type of job that you're trying to ultimately get. And then lastly, these just habits and experiences. So, how can we really show the full picture of who we are? Ultimately, our resume is the tool to help us get in front of this recruiter, in front of this hiring manager, in front of this nurse manager, right? And so how can we really let them know that we're a quality candidate, that we are someone who takes healthcare seriously, who takes caring for patients seriously throughout all of the different experiences that we've had on our resume.
Certifications, registered nurses and other healthcare roles.
Now, here's a list of, certainly not an exhaustive one, but of medical certifications that might be good examples of things that if you have them, you want to make sure that they are listed on your resume. I would also recommend for that to be written just as you see it here. So we've got Certified Pediatric Nurse, CPN. Some employers are going to use CPN to search. Some might use that exact phrase of Certified Pediatric Nurse. So make sure that you're showing up in both sets of searches by including the commonly used abbreviation. Like I mentioned, this is just a sample of all of the ones that exist, particularly if you're on our call today and you're exploring the healthcare field or you're interested in learning about what else is out there and what else might be worth exploring for your own career. We have this information listed within the Indeed Career Guide, and we have a specific section on healthcare certifications that we invite you to visit to learn more.
Career pages.
In addition, especially if you're in that exploration phase, our career pages are another great place for you to come and learn more about what these positions entail, how people, real life people in these positions actually feel. How do they like their job? What are some of the challenges that they face? So that we can go into these new phases of our own career with a real understanding of what it's like on the front lines. There's also a great place for you to compare salaries in different locations, even compare similar professions if you're making that decision, allowing you to see that as well.
Hiring Now, Kindred Healthcare, Sabre Healthcare, the Mentor Network, and others.
Certainly, lots of hiring is still going on, as we talked about in the beginning of our webinar today. Here are some that are hiring now, and they're hiring a lot. So with your healthcare backgrounds and experiences, we invite you to go to indeed.com/companies, look up some of these particular organizations that are looking for talent, potentially like yourself, and see what they have to offer. That'll take you to their company page. You can see the jobs that they have listed that they're hiring for, as well as a plethora of different information, reviews from current and past employers, questions and answers that a lot of times the organization themselves have answered, as well as glimpses into everyday life working for these organizations. So lots of great, rich information ready and waiting for you there. So with that, I'll go ahead and pass it back over to Leora for some Q&A from our community.
Thanks so much, Christina. And I know we're over time now, but if those of you who are watching can stay on the line, we're going to answer some questions. And for those who need to leave, please feel free, and you can catch the recording later on YouTube. All right, so let's take a look at a couple of our questions. All right, here's the first one. Keith, it's for you. For those who are looking to enter the healthcare workforce after graduation, how can they do it and to ensure that they find a new role?
Well, that's a great question. Now, the first thing obviously is to take your licensing exam and get licensed. So that's first up. So make sure you do your due diligence to get your license, and then get that resume out, get that skeleton cover letter out, polish them up, hire someone if you need to, get all of that dialed in. Now, you want to launch a robust and complete LinkedIn profile. Make sure your Indeed profile is ready to roll, and then do some strategic networking. Have a plan for networking. Pound the virtual pavement, because you can't really pound the actual pavement outside right now. But once COVID-19 clears, of course, you can get out there and start knocking on doors. You need to be assertive. You need to be confident. You need to be forthright about what makes you the best possible investment as a candidate. Remember those hard and soft skills. What EMRs do you use? What clinical skills do you have? Can you interpret EKGs? Can you do central and midline care? Do you do G-tubes, transfusions, chemo? Make it clear. Those keywords count.
This one is particularly relevant to the situation right now. Are there any online programs that are widely accepted, Keith?
Yes, there are. Many programs are online right now, and actually almost all schools are 100% or almost 100% online. Now, I am aware personally, because I hear this anecdotally, that there's some bias about online programs, sometimes about NP programs or BSN programs, but that is the wave of the present and definitely the wave of the future. So some of those hiring managers out there have got to get up to speed and just accept it. So if you're looking at an online program, there's several things to look at. Pay attention to accreditation. What is their accreditation, and are they up to speed with whatever organization is accrediting them? Check that very carefully. The next thing is, what kind of support is there for students in that online milieu? Are you going to be able to contact your professor on a Sunday if you have a question right before papers due? What is there, and can you also access your classmates and have conversations with them online? And now, very importantly, if you're in an online program that has a clinical aspect to it, which many do, of course, make sure that the placements you get help with placement. Check if you have to take 100% responsibility for setting up all your clinical placements, or are you going to get the support that you should be getting? That should give you a hint about the quality of the program. And finally, ask to speak with professors, clinical leaders, clinical instructors, and graduates of the program and current students of the program. They will cherry pick those, of course, but you can ask salient questions and get some answers about the quality of the program you're looking at.
I like that answer, Keith, because similar to online programs, we said telehealth is growing. So it sounds like really being comfortable with technology seems to be a vital part of the way that the nursing field is going.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And this next one is related to this time of year, especially. I'm waiting to get into a program. What are some alternative health paths that I might be able to pursue?
Great question. You know, schools do like to see that you've been working in healthcare in some way. They even like if you can document or somehow show that, say, you've taken care of your grandparents while they were on hospice. I've seen nursing students get into school because they wrote essays about caring for family members. So that does count. Now, you can volunteer for hospice. You can volunteer for any kind of human service program in your area. You can volunteer for healthcare for the homeless. There's so many things you can do. That shows that that you're assertive, that you're out there, that you're a go-getter, that you're trying to learn and become a healthcare provider even before you're in school. Now, you can also work as a CNA. CNA programs take, I think, about 6 months or so. So you can become a CNA easily and get out there and start working. You can also work in a medical office or an ambulatory care center. You can get a job if you get trained as a transcriber. There's plenty of things that you can do, volunteer or actually get paid for. And if possible, is there somebody out there who you can shadow, who can mentor you? HIPAA is always an issue, but you can maybe work around that and maybe get permission to shadow a nurse practitioner or a nurse or someone who you can help. And finally, you can get a job privately as a personal care attendant or home aide on a private pay basis and just make sure that work is documented. And the schools love to see that you've been out there really learning and asserting yourself.
We kind of whet your palate with some of those questions, and we want to make sure that we can continue this conversation. So I wanted to remind you all that we have career coaches available on Indeed Community, which is our conversation page. You can also learn more about various webinars that we have at go.indeed.com/jobcast. And I want to make sure also that we go ahead and acknowledge that you know that you're not alone and that those of us here at Indeed are here to help you with your journey.
Indeed.com/here to help.
So please take advantage of the offerings that we have. And one of those offerings has been Nurse Keith. So Keith, please tell everyone where to find you in the future.
Sure. I'm very easy to find. NurseKeith.com is the clearinghouse for everything I do around career coaching. I work specifically with nurses.
Podcasts at nursekeithshow.libsyn.com.
I have a popular nursing career podcast called The Nurse Keith Show. You can find it anywhere and everywhere. And I'm also involved in a series of webinars for nurses right now during COVID-19 with Elite CME at elitecme.com/webinars. You can get them on demand or live, and those are free CEUs, and it's all about self-care and wellness during the pandemic. And you can see on the slide all of the ways to find me on social media. So thank you, Leora.
On Facebook and Instagram at Nurse Keith Coaching, on Twitter at Nurse Keith, on LinkedIn, Keith Allen Carlson.
And thank you, Keith. Thank you, Christina. We're really glad that you were able to join us today. And for the latest information from Indeed, follow us on social media as we'll continue to share relevant updates. Thank you for tuning in. Happy National Nurses Week and have a great day.
Text Indeed Jobcast.